Hey everyone, and welcome to the SuperWorld Summit. I'm Hrish Lotlikar, co-founder and CEO of SuperWorld. At SuperWorld, we believe the future isn't something we wait for, it's something we build together. Throughout this summit, I'll be speaking with builders, technologists, investors, and visionaries who are reimagining what's possible through AI, spatial computing, blockchain, and real-world assets. And this moment marks a major milestone for us at SuperWorld. We're officially launching the SuperWorld token, the utility token powering our global ecosystem across digital commerce, e-commerce, physical and digital check-ins, virtual real estate, and real-world asset monetization. Already, we've sold around 25,000 plots of virtual real estate around the world and built 175,000 plus community and partnered with global leaders like Sports Illustrated, Niantic, SingularityNet, and the World Bank. Our token's public launch is coming soon. Now let's kick off the summit. I'm really excited here to introduce a very long-time friend, Ryan Wang, who is an amazing individual, very international, and involved in so many parts of frontier tech. He's a founding partner of Outpost Capital and also managing partner of Solaris Venture Partners. Excited to have Ryan here at SuperWorld Summit. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks for having me, Hrish. It's been a while, so good to see you again.
Yeah, I'm excited to jump into and hear about all the things that you've been working on. You're always, as I mentioned, at the forefront of what's happening in tech and also very international all over the world. Love to jump in. Maybe we can start by telling everyone at SuperWorld Summit what your background is. If you can give me the backstory on how you got into the space and into investing and technology.
Absolutely, happy to. So 15 years ago, I started my career as an investment banker in New York City, right? So after I finished my master's from New York University, I started, working as a banker with Citigroup in New York City. And after that, I also worked for a French bank called Société Générale. So after roughly spending 4 or 5 years as a banker, I moved on from New York City to San Francisco in 2015 and become a venture capitalist. So from there, I first joined a VC firm called CLI Ventures, where I was managing the growth stage, Series B, Series C type of deals on the TMT side of the investment, right? After spending a year with CLI, me and my partner, we started Outpost Capital together. So considering early 2016 to where we are today, it's a journey of more than 9 years, almost 10 years. So I would say that for the past decade, right, I've been through a number of different rides of what's happening in the frontier technology space, and also the definition of what is frontier. The technology is constantly changing, right? So blockchain, crypto, we know it has been going through a couple cycles of different ups and downs, right? VR, AR, immersive technology, we had the initial bull cycle around 2016, 2017, going deep 2018, 2019 period. And then around 2020, when we hit COVID, right? Everyone's locked down at home. The concept of metaverse on the rise. So there was a comeback for that circle as well, right? AI, same thing, rise and fall. And for the past two to 3 years, the ChatGPT moment, right? We see how AI is rapidly taking over the world and is constantly shifting the way on how we understand about technology, how we do business in the future. And, it's quickly accelerating a lot of other frontier technology sectors as well. So I think, in general, it has been a crazy ride. And I think one of the things is that when you are in the industry for almost a decade, right, you almost force a situation that you have to have a long-term view on understanding, what's the fundamental impact through different technology cycles. And also you have to be like, patient enough, right? So that, you can be game for the longer term and not to get too distracted by, all this short-term noise as well. Recently, you mentioned, I also started a private equity practice with a couple of friends called Solaris Venture Partners, where we focused on growth stage opportunities in AI, robotics, semiconductor, data center, and infrastructure. So yeah, it's been quite a ride.
Yeah, that has been a ride through so many different cycles, even in the last 10 years with all of the major, moments, not only on the tech side, but just society with COVID and, the other things that have come out, since the ChatGPT moment in AI. And so it's interesting how technology adapts the term frontier, so many different things, and I'm sure more to come. What do you think is the thing that drives you so much looking at the frontier and, across all of these different themes? Is there a driving force that you're excited about, or is there a why that you do what you do?
Well, I think that's a really good question, right? Growing up as a kid, I feel like I'm always a very curious person, right? I want to understand not only how things works as of today, but also I'm very curious on how things will develop tomorrow, right? That's why, I always am a big fan of different, sci-fi stories, right? Because I think, when we both the sci-fi genre and the fantasy genre are fictional, right? But the difference is that sci-fi is based on certain scientific facts, whereas, the fantasy world is just like, hey, let's just let our imagination run without considering what's a physical reality, what's a law look like. So I think, my love towards sci-fi is a huge to my curiosity and how things will develop in the future. And also, I think, especially thinking about my career, when I started my professional journey as an investment banker, right? You work very hard, you make good money, but at the end of the day, you don't see too much impact on how your work is delivering changes to the future, that how the world is going to evolve into, right? But working at the forefront here of technology, right? Working on the very cutting edge, working with the smartest people in the world, in the heart of Silicon Valley, I can sense that, I am passionately in the driving seat, right? Of course, I'm not an entrepreneur, so I'm not in day-to-day operations. But being the investor, you can work on this, smartest brains on planet Earth, and you can see, these are some of the early stage of the ideas. And if we take this technology into everyday use cases, what's a potential future of the world? And the next step question is that, how can we take this technology and achieve certain level of market adoption, right? How can we take a new technology and bring it to the mass, right? So I think, working as a venture capitalist alongside the entrepreneurs, you are tackling all these kind of problems and challenges every day, right? So that you feel like to a certain extent, your impact and your understanding of how future will develop, you can sense that you are delivering certain level of impact to shape the future as well, right? So I think, to answer your question, one, I'm a very curious person, so it's a fulfillment of my personal curiosity. And two, I think, it's very fulfilling as well. Certain actions you do today will have certain level of impact as of tomorrow, right? On how the world will eventually become.
Yeah, you're always, curious, as you said, always trying to learn and to know what's happening on the forefront, who the people are that are building those technologies or applications. And then you really want to figure out how you can be impactful in that journey of that entrepreneur or that technology being formed. So that kind of galvanizes you to kind of always be seeking these technologies, people, and ideas.
It is very exciting, right? We see all the ups and downs of different technology cycle.
Yeah.
We see different ups and downs of the economic cycle, right? And from a bigger perspective, a more global perspective, kind of like similar to what Ray Dalio has famously mentioned in his books, right? We also see the ups and downs of different nations, the power, right? The geopolitical situation, the power dynamic shift impact the global economy as well, right? So I think, different cycles being at the very forefront, you feel like you are not only sitting on a roller coaster ride, right? You're also somehow driving a roller coaster ride. I think it's a very, very exciting journey so far.
Yeah, as you mentioned, there are these cycles, and we seem in a very interesting period. I guess it's always interesting times. What do you think about that in terms of, what's happening in the world? I'll bring up, let's say, world trade as it relates to technology innovation. I know you're also involved in things regarding trade, and would love to hear some of your views on maybe the order and how that's shaping and what's happening here in terms of society.
Right, definitely. So one thing that I haven't mentioned is that in addition to my professional journey, I'm also one of the co-founder and the director of a nonprofit organization called IFTA, stand for International Free Trade Alliance, right? So the mission behind this nonprofit is that there are thousands of different free trade zones and special economic zones around the world where there are particular regions, and because they are embracing the concept of free trade and they want to develop the local economy,
right?
They set up special policies and special benefits for corporations, especially international corporations and global sellers, to set up presence or to start certain level of trading activities among these free trade zones and special economic zones, right? And also, we want to build a network so that we encourage not only from free trade zone on how they are interacting with the rest of the world, but also in between different free trade zones, right? How can they interact with each other? And eventually we want to facilitate a global network that can be leveraged through the free trade zones as hubs, right? We want to build a future world. Trading is becoming easier and the trade barriers is becoming as low as possible, right? So, given my activities in this side of the world, you can probably guess that I'm a believer of free trade, right? So I think, the whole concept is a abstract concept, right? When we come to the world, before I become a Chinese or American or, a German or Indian, right? Before I have all these identities, who am I? I'm a human being on planet Earth, right? That's one of my and one of everyone's fundamental label, one of the things that's shared among all the human beings on Earth, right? But the concept of nation is an abstract concept that comes under certain circumstances, but it doesn't have to come that way, right? So given that kind of situation, I think for the future of humanity, it's to embrace as much as possible to operate under the principle of free trade will deliver the maximized value to the whole human species as a whole, right? Not to mention about, in a zero-sum game, which nation will gain power, which nation will lose power, right? That's a zero-sum game. But the human being as a whole, society as a whole, civilization, lower trade barrier and build a more sustainable global supply chain system is something that's beneficial for entire human species, right? And that's why I feel like, hey, there are a lot of things in the future for us human beings to tackle, right? How can we live longer? How can we live healthier? How can we, develop our civilization faster and better, right? How can we all come to a better version of the future? I think those kind of a future is only going to slow down when the trade barrier is higher, but it could be accelerated if the trade barrier is lower. Then the whole system is more efficient, right? Given that kind of situation, that's why I actively embrace the principle of free trade. And that's why, in addition to my professional journey, I also want to, do my part of the work to figure out certain ways to bring down the trade barrier as much as possible as well. Right. And, trade is one equation. Technology, especially frontier technology, is another equation. Right. So for the past 10 years, working in the frontier technology sector, we see how crypto has changed the world. Right. We see how AI has changed the world. Right now, for the young kids, right, they are all become crypto native and they are all become AI native. Right. Moving forward, what to us is the internet, right? What to Gen Z is as a mobile internet. AI for the Gen Alphas is going to be the next foundational infrastructure for them as well. And I think, the development technology and the accelerated pace for adoption of this technology is also something that's pulling the development of the human civilization ahead, help us to build a better version of the world faster, right? I think that's also very beneficial. Of course, a lot of potential risk with any emerging technologies, but overall, as you can see, I embrace the principle of free trade, and also I am a little bit optimistic on the ethos and the ethics behind the new technologies as well.
Yeah, that's very important. I mean, ultimately, having as your goal the improvement of humanity across the world and, our ability to have access to resources and education and these technologies that are being built anywhere in the world. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think we're really focused on at SuperWorld as well. And a big theme of this summit, the SuperWorld Summit, is to, highlight what individuals are doing and around the world to improve Earth and humanity. What do you think is the most exciting, and you're involved in so many technologies, what is the number one or number two kind of top exciting technologies that are happening right now that people should know more about? And why do you think that is the case? Because you have so many different areas that you're involved in. What is the hottest right now in your mind?
Right. Yeah. So I have two answers to your question, right? So one answer is more on the mainstream trend, and the other answer is more on the one of the particular niche, right?
Okay.
So the mainstream trend, I think, obviously AI is a game changer, right? And everyone throughout the world is doubling down on AI. Every system from enterprise to individuals, right? We are all embracing AI in our everyday lives. So I think, that's something very much on the mainstream. And also, I kind of mentioned that before. If we think about the definition of infrastructure, not today, but 10 years down the road, right? Data centers is at the verge of energy and computation, right? And technology. And I think that's going to be the backbone of a lot of things we do 10 years down the road, right? It's just similar to the power, electricity that we are using every day, right? The power of computing, the resource of computation will become the new infrastructure for the future of the world that we live in 10 years down the road, right? When we think about a data center 5, 10 years down the road, is something that's very similar to how we think about a energy center as of today. So I think a lot of things are happening. We all see different nations and different sovereignty fund, right? They invest hundreds of billions of dollars. Sometimes this number could go up to trillions, right? This kind of infrastructure level investment and development. So I think that's a super exciting trend on the mainstream. Now, I think, on the early stage, on the most cutting edge front, right, we need to look into some of the more niche area and still something that has huge potential, but still very much under the radar, right? So for that, if I'm bringing on my VC hat, what are some of the areas that's not as crowded, but has huge potential, right? What's some overlooked blue ocean opportunity? One of the areas that I am particularly interested in is spatial AI, right? So a lot of people haven't heard about the term spatial AI, but they might have heard about the term like spatial computing or, spatial intelligence, right? So basically, spatial AI is the intersection where AI meet with 3D applications, right? So think about, for example, the term physical AI is in the world of AI, talking about how AI is interacting in the physical world and how AI is navigating in the physical world. And if we think about physical AI, the physical reality we live in is also 3D native, right? So it's also a subset of spatial AI. Other examples could be 3D generative, right? So how can we go from, from the modality perspective, how can we do things from, text to 3D, image to 3D, right? Video to 3D, these kind of applications. How can we build a foundation model that's 3D native, right? As we all know, current, most large language model is based on language as input, right? But language is one-dimensional information. When we as human intelligence are interacting with the world, our understanding about the world is 3D native, right? How can we build a foundation model that can understand the world from a 3D native type of perspective, right? So a lot of new development from the foundation model side, from the application layer, right? There has been a lot of, different applications from consumer, right? Consumer side. Most of the game nowadays are 3D, right? So when we bring AI into games, that's essentially become a spatial AI for gaming type of application.
Yeah.
And in the enterprise side of the world, we see a lot of, simulations, digital twins and digital doubles, right? Warehousing, factory, workflow automation, right? All these problems are happening in 3D. And with the introduction of AI, we are essentially tackling a spatial intelligence, a spatial AI problem. Right. So I think, how AI is interacting with 3D, what's the best use cases, what's the best practices? Does it take a brand new foundation model? Shall we even consider ditch the transformer architecture and use a totally different version of architecture when we are solving the 3D side of the problems, right? Are we able to deliver the multimodality to the 3D world? All these questions falls under spatial AI. And I think, not too many people have been talking about this concept. And for me, I have been actively developing a new investment thesis in spatial AI. And also I've been, in the process of mapping out the landscape, some of the leading companies, the future trend. I'm thinking about also publish some of the research and my investment thesis towards later this year as well. So I think, in a nutshell, on the niche area, spatial AI is something that make me super excited and motivate me to wake up every day.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that's going to really revolutionize AI when we're able to apply a real world model to that and be able to understand context on the world around us. We're very excited about that too. What do you think is the biggest challenge right now? You brought up free trade and some of the other kinds of issues as it relates to technologies being developed, being able to internationalize technology. What do you think is, as we're in this period of such growth with AI and spatial AI and other technologies that are coming, are there any challenges that you think are potentially need to be solved here? Is it financial? Is it people? Is it education? What is the biggest?
Well, I think comparing to, let's say, 5 or 10 years ago, the world that we live in as today is much more chaotic. Political situation going on, right? There are two, superpowers, super nations in the world right now, and it feels like all the nations need to pick their side type of situation. There are a few regional conflict that's constantly happening, right? And also from an economic perspective, the global economic outlook is not very how things will turn out, right? So not too much clarity or predictability from the economic perspective as well. So I think it's much more chaotic and unpredictable world we are living compared to 5 or 10 years ago, right? But on the flip side, I think the more chaotic the world it is, the easier it is for, people, the visionaries, right, the industry leaders to figure out certain opportunities to start a new revolution, technology revolution, maybe some other type of revolution, right? But to bring certain disruption to the current system and to embrace maybe a new system, right? So I think the situation is suffering in the short term, but can be beneficial in the long term. And I think, to answer your question, the biggest challenge for different founders, disruptors, right, and the visionary leaders is really to understand how to navigate this chaotic ecosystem, how to turn the situation from something that's unpredictable to something that's beneficial to their particular business, right? To their particular transformation, their particular disruption they want to bring to the world. That's the challenge. But again, with every challenge that comes an opportunity.
Yeah, sure. Some of this chaos that's happening is going to create opportunities to come together and create solutions, kind of put us into a forcing function to solve these problems.
Right.
As a final question, kind of pondering the future and what's to come here as it relates to technology, what's your thoughts on the next 5-10 years in terms of what the world's going to be like? Singularity is coming. What does the future hold for us? How is our life be different? There's just so many different parts of our life that we can anticipate changing. We see what's happening with autonomous vehicles. We can see what's happening with the drones that are coming, the robotics and AI just kind of penetrating every part of our life. How is that going to change how we live? Anything that you can say specifically that you're excited about? How is education going to change? Give me some of that.
Right. I think always a little bit easier to think about the next 2-3 years, right? But if we bring the scale to the next 5 to 10 years, then things always get a little bit unpredictable, right? But I think a safe bet is AI will be more embedded in our everyday life, right? A lot of applications, our everyday use cases will become part of certain like AI enabled, right? Not only just large language models, but also small language models, right? And different kind of distilled models that's running on edge devices, right? I think these are all going to make a lot of new layers of impact, and it's going to be like much fully integrated on every aspect of our individual lives, or how our society, corporations, different organizations, institution functions, right? I think that's just an inevitable part of the future. One of the other predictions, if I can make, is I think how human beings interact with technology are also going to shift quite dramatically as well, right? So I think a little bit more than a decade ago, when Oculus just have emerged from a university prototype into a company, a lot of people have taken their first taste on, what it feels like to step into a 3D environment, right? So that's a different level of immersion. That's a different way on how we human beings interact with technology, right? But I think, down the road, our interaction with technology, the type of media also become more diversified, right? Today, it's very much like, smartphone is the major platform. And in addition to smartphone, we have different computers, desktop, laptop, tablets, different kind of IoT devices, right? And that's a state of the art today. But tomorrow, it could be a lot of new things, right? It could be glasses, the clothes that we are wearing every day, right? Could be the cars we are driving, right? Cars are already becoming computers with all the EVs running on the street. And could be like, the shoes we wear, could be the home that we live in. So I think, everything will be fully integrated, different type of medium where humans are able to interact with technology will become much, much more diversified. And so far, most of the human data, especially personal data, is on your phone. But tomorrow, I think 5-10 years down the road, I don't know, maybe if I take a blind guess, only 20-30% of the data will be on the phone, right? And then a lot of other human activities could be captured through some other gadgets, wearables that become part of our kind of like standardized everyday life. And I think in certain ways, technology become more invisible, right? But at the same time, technology are becoming more impactful because it's going to become everywhere, right? So I think the evolution of how human will interact with technology, I think that's something that I'll be looking forward to in the next 5 to 10 years horizon as well.
Awesome. That's a very optimistic view of what's coming. Again, very much in line with that as well. I'm very excited about how we're going to interact and how the world's going to be improved by all these technologies. They're going to just integrate with all different aspects of our life. So thanks again for joining us, Ryan, at SuperWorld Summit. Awesome to kind of delve into your latest work and all the things that you're doing. What's the best place for people to find you online?
To follow my journey, they can easily find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Any ideas, anything you want to reach out to me, just send me a direct message on LinkedIn. That's something I check every day as well.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. We'll look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Hrish. Appreciate it.
What an incredible session. It's been such a privilege to sit down with some of the brightest minds and come together to explore how we can build a more meaningful, abundant future using the tools of emerging tech, from spatial computing and blockchain to AI and real-world assets. This summit has been a powerful reminder of what's possible when purpose and innovation meet. And here at SuperWorld, we're more committed than ever to building a platform that empowers you to shape the world around you, to create, to earn, and connect in ways that were never possible before. And at the heart of that vision is the SuperWorld token, fueling everything from digital commerce and virtual real estate to AI to content filters and real-world monetization. So if you felt inspired this week and you believe in the vision that we're building, now is the time to take action. Thank you for being part of the SuperWorld Summit, Why We Build. And let's keep building together, and I'll see you in SuperWorld.